live. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Finally. So we are
Edward Thomas
and Lin Nguyen, and we are the hosts of this program. And today we have a really interesting topic.
Yes, we do.
What is that, Ed?
I don't know. I forgot what we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about dating again, but with the light of dating a non-believer when you are a believer. And this is also really interesting for people who are not Christians.
Like communists.
Yes. I mean, what are the risks? Like, if you date a Christian, what are the risks doing that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Think of if you were a non-Christian and you go out, you meet this person like so hot and they have like a great body and everything and a great personality. And then you go out and you're just like, oh, I just like met the dream of my life, my soulmate. And then they're going like, yes, I really am praying to God about you. And you're just like, ah.
No, maybe not that one. But I mean, if you think about the future and stuff and what exactly puts you two together and why are you attracted to each other and is this something worthwhile or not, But I mean, I think both you, Ed, and me, we have both experiences with dating a non-believer because before I met my husband, I was a non-believer. And when we got married, obviously I was a believer.
I remember.
Yeah, you married us.
I know, I was there.
I was there.
I was like, whoa, she loves Jesus.
But I remember it very clearly that it was, I think our meeting was really unorthodox and how we got together and everything, how it went. So I always had some kind of faith in something, but I wouldn't say I was a Buddhist or anything else, or maybe you could call me a seeker. But when I met Jonas, just after a couple of days, we would like go through we were really like infatuated with each other. So we would go through this list of questions for like in preparation of getting married. Imagine that. Like,
gosh. You guys are so weird.
Yeah, I know, right? I was 17 and he was 20.
Oh my gosh.
And I came to his parents' house to with a student exchange, and I wanted to learn more Swedish, so I was there. And we went through this question stuff, and there were a lot of like really serious questions.
Really?
Yeah, like, oh, what about money? What about TV? But everything. It could be from sexual things to just everyday things to how many children you want, or what does it matter how much money you earn and stuff like that. And one question was, what is the most important thing in your life? So what do you think Jonas said, being a Christian?
TV games.
No.
He's probably say Jesus.
Yeah, he said like, oh, God is number one for me. And me not being a believer, I'm like, I was hurt. I was like, dude, you're supposed to say me.
I can imagine. Like, here you are. He's like, and you were like just so pissed at him because he would choose someone else above you.
Yeah, but I mean, it gave me somehow the motivation. Like, okay, who's this dude that you consider to be
who's this man?
Important?
Who's this man that's competing against me? Look at all this.
So, I mean, in our case, it went well in the sense of that I found my personal faith and I became a Christian. But it was, I would call it almost a misstep of Jonas to pursue me, even though he knew I wasn't a Christian. And his family wasn't really fond. Like, they were fond of me as a person, but they were not really happy because they also talked to him about, she's not a Christian. And there are things to consider.
Yeah. Like, like the position from where we make our values. Make our values based on a faith. Whether you're an atheist or Christian, Buddhist, communist, whatever.
Communist? That's not a religion, dude.
In a way. Okay, that's like another thing. I think that communism should be classified as a religion. But I have a reason for saying that, but I'm not going to go into that now. So if you want to know, you need to write us a question. But basically we're talking about different types of worldviews or different types of philosophical or religious positions that a person can take.
And I think the problems do not creep in when you're just dating necessarily. Like,
often not.
I don't know, you might go to church and this other person don't. You might give your 10th and the other person don't. And you might like to read the Bible or have certain political points or certain other issues that you consider really important and the other person don't. And when you're dating, those things might not overlap. Like, you have your own household, you might have your own friends, you have your own hobbies. There is not as much things that could give you friction.
Yeah. When you get married, it becomes our money. And all of a sudden, what you're doing with our money is way different than what you're doing with your money. So you give your say if you tithe, you give 10% of your income to the church. Wow. And that's something that maybe many non-believers would be like, what? Like, I know church is all about money. No, it takes money to run a church. And people who are part of that actually support that financially, just like you would any other type of organization or whatever. Yeah. But a lot of times non-believers are like shocked at some of the things that Christians do. So that whole 10%, what you like giving to, like, we're going to live off the 90%. But if you both had that as a value, it wouldn't even be a thing to fight about. It's just, this is the way we live our life and everything. So that's where that friction comes in. It starts to come in, or it starts to show up the more intimate everyday life that you live with that person.
And I was trying to explain to one colleague I had, because she is about to marry a non-Christian, and I just got to know her. So obviously I didn't want to put myself into her stuff. Like, I don't want to be nosy and tell her how to live her life, whatever. But I tried to explain to her that you either drift off your own faith, or in best case scenario, the other one will come closer to you. But it's not a guarantee. You will never be able to tell, like, oh, this person will become a Christian eventually. No. Because they might not. They might not, really.
They may not.
And they might be, or may give you reason to step away from the church. They might think, oh, the church, they brainwash you, and I don't want them to go. I don't want our kids to go there, or our kids should decide themselves if they want to go or not. And I think it divides the family.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that, when I married Annette, she told me she believed in Jesus and everything, and we went to church together and everything, and then after we had been married like 3.5 years, then she told me, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God. I was like, oh my gosh. And one of the biggest contentions for us was that I believe the children should go to church. When they're small children, we take them to church, they go to Sunday school, we go to church together as a family. And Annette didn't follow to church, and she thought it was wrong for me to take the kids to church. And so we fought every single Sunday about taking the kids to church. And it was never like, okay, like, this is important, I'm going to help you out. It was always like resistance there, which doesn't really help the kids at all. It doesn't show them anything positive about the faith in that regard, because it's always like, well, why is mom and dad always arguing about us going to church? And then none of their friends went to church, and they didn't make any friends in church either. So it just, everything was compounded that way. So that was really difficult. And it's one of those things that was really difficult to deal with, because going to church I thought was really important. I believe that this faith is real, and so I wanted my children to be exposed to it. You can't choose for them. You can't make them Christian, but you're trying to expose them to this faith and this way of life. You want them to make that choice for themselves, and so it's so that was really difficult. That was a very difficult time for us, because that was like every Sunday.
That sounds really tough.
Yeah, it was tough.
Especially something that you might consider, oh, this is so basic, this is so ingrained in me. For you, it's nothing to argue about. What's the big deal? So
exactly, and it's so weird because there are other things that weren't at all a problem. Like, we follow the food laws that are written in the Bible and stuff, and that wasn't a problem. That was like, we had a discussion. I'm like, that's what it says in the Bible. My wife said, okay.
Less pork.
And the whole family's like, okay, we're not eating pork and shellfish. I'm like, okay. But going to church on Sunday,
that was a big deal.
Taking the kids to Sunday school, that was a big deal, So, But if we're looking at people who are dating, and we're looking at people who are considering, so we have two situations. You're considering dating or getting more serious with a person. You like the person, you have good chemistry, and you're considering becoming more serious. Or in the situation where it's become really serious, and now you're thinking about marriage. Mm-hmm. So we have these two situations where it's not just, I'm going on a date to get to know someone or just to have a good time with them. I think what we're really talking about is having that intimate relationship that develops into closeness, and they become intertwined, and you become emotionally invested and time invested in that person's life. That person becomes invested in your life. Now you want to try to build a home with that person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the point that we're talking about today, that is probably something that a person should consider. And I know this is like, some people are going to say, well, who are you to tell me how to live my life or whatever, but
there are Bible verses, actually. If you're a Christian, there are Bible verses. They're quite clear on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in most Christians, we say practicing Christians who believe that the Bible is true, are pretty much in agreement that people shouldn't, Christians shouldn't date non-Christians. My friend who was a Muslim imam, and we had this big discussion before, Obaid and I, we were talking, he said, yeah, I totally agree with you, because, Muslims shouldn't be dating Christians or other people either, because, for the same reason. It's just, it's harder to build that home and harder to build that relationship when you have two different values, when you have two different ethics, when you have two different rights and wrong. Because it's so much work that it's just easier to separate than it is to try to keep that together and working against that. So.
We had this discussion at work too, and there was my older colleague, and she's not a believer in any sense. And she said that her both parents were non-believers, so the mom identified as a Catholic and the dad identified as a Muslim, but both were non-religious. And she said that went really, really well. But she agreed that people who don't share the same faith and don't practice it, they should not get together. They should not get married. They should not date, because at some point those things will break the relationship.
Exactly.
Relationships are hard enough, but if you date someone who's so different from you, you set it up somehow to fail. And I know that there are examples where it works. I don't know how they work. I don't know how much they have to compromise. I don't know how much energy they have to put in simple things.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah. What you're saying is that you're bringing up relevant points. Mm-hmm. And those points are things that people should consider when the relationship is starting to become more serious and they're moving towards marriage, and they're moving towards spending the rest of their life together.
Yeah.
It's just those things. It's just, I usually say that you want to build your home on a sure foundation. And certain things you just need to have in common. You have to be synchronized. And if you're not, it's just going to be much harder to build a home on that weaker foundation. So,
because I think to be religious in that sense and practice it, it's not a hobby. It should not be like, I'll do it for 5 years and then I'll stop and then I pick up another hobby. It should be something that is so ingrained in you that it will never stop. It might take off in intensity or it will get more intense, but it should never be like, I just quit. I just quit church for you, or something like that. So I think it's a warning. It's a warning for Christians to really consider. Should you even be starting to date? Because as you said, you get invested, and the more you get invested, the harder it will be to step away from it. Yeah. The harder it will be to receive reason. Like your friends might tell you, you know what the Bible says. Your pastor might tell you it's not a good idea. But I think the more you invest, the more you will be unwilling to step away from it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're out there and you're listening to us and you're in this situation, first we want to say that we empathize with you. And we totally understand it's a difficult situation to be in.
It's not fun.
And it's definitely not fun once you've invested in someone and you really like this person, and especially if you're in the situation where you feel like this is the person you should be with. And then here comes some kind of technicality, like, oh wow, we're not really that synced when it comes to the place where we make our decisions about our morals and our values. Ooh, wow. How is that going to work? And what happens is usually, if you're being honest, you'll find out that it's not just that one area. It starts to permeate into other areas. I mean, it would be something like, I'm going to describe a Christian day. And I don't mean that every Christian lives this way, but I'm just being really general about it. So you wake up in the morning and you thank God for your life. You may read your Bible or pray, and you're praying for your family. You're praying for people around you, and because you want God to help them. You go through your day, and as you meet people, because, you've been convinced that God has called you to be the salt and the light. And so you look for opportunities to bless people, to help people, to do something positive in their life. You thank God for the food you eat, and you come back home at the end of the day with a sense of thankfulness. You might spend some time in God's Word and pray. As well as all these other things and stuff like that happens. Like you go to, you go shopping, you go to work and everything. And now this other person comes into your life. Now this is the way you live your life. This is normal for you. And now here's another person. And it would be so unfair to expect this person to behave in a religious kind of way when it's not their choice to follow Jesus, not their choice to believe in God or whatever. And so what happens is that you'll end up waking up in the morning. You share a house and a home with a person. But as you wake up to pray for your day, you're praying for the day, and the other person doesn't participate in that because for them it's nonsense. And what happens is that...
Or they think it's a nice thought. It's nice that you are doing it.
Right, it's nice that you're doing it, but it's nothing that they would participate in with you.
Or they would remind you. They might not remind you.
No, they wouldn't remind you either.
They might not support you in it. No. They might not...
No, they don't make it easier. And so what happens is that, so something happens, someone who's really close to you, a family member, or someone at your job, or maybe even if you have children, and you really want God to help them. And it would be so great and so wonderful if your partner could join you in that effort. Two together, united in prayer for someone that you know that they really need God's help. But your partner isn't a believer. And so your partner can't participate, and they can't even support you in that. And they don't even understand what you're doing. It's like you're doing a bunch of weird stuff. You really think God hears you? I mean, and so what happens is that you start to journey, like you're living in the house with someone. You're married to them. You want to build a home. But that journey that spiritual journey that you're on your own.
Yeah.
You're by yourself, and you will never experience that oneness of coming together in that shared experience. And so you're always alone in your faith, in spite of the fact that you actually share a house and a home with that person. And that's a hard thing to live with. It's difficult.
And I think there is this trap that I think every Christian who dates a non-Christian falls in, and that's this hope and idea that the other person will change. The other person will, but he's so interested in the faith, and she has come to church several times, and it's like this trap. It's this thought because you want it so much, so you are so susceptible to it that it might happen. And and I know a friend that he started dating a non-Christian, but he realized that this is not right, and he stepped away from it. Like he broke up with her for a while, because he told her, like, I don't know, God, I have to pray with God about this. This doesn't seem right. And she was like devastated because she didn't get it. She's like, why are you breaking up with me?
Right, exactly.
What did I do? And he's like, it's not about you. It's just like, I need to settle this with God. I don't know what to do. And she like, well, I don't know. Why are you hurting me this way?
Exactly. Yeah, because it is difficult, but number one, you're always going to have to decide. As you're following this path, you're going to have to decide, will I follow it regardless? And you're always going to come to a situation where you have a crisis of belief. So in this case, we're talking about dating as a crisis of belief. We're taking, here's someone, you really like someone, but let me ask you a question. How much do you really trust God? How much do you really trust God to be there for you and to help you to make a wise decision? And how much is God a part of your decision-making process? So sometimes you meet a person, and now I want God to bless this, make this person Christian, and make them okay and nice, because what I'm leading is that I'm leading with, this is what I want. Give me what I want, God.
Yeah.
As opposed to God is an integral part of my life who leads me where I need to be. So that's one of the questions that you should ask yourself. And then the other question should be your level of commitment in the point of, if God is number one in your life.
Yeah.
So you said that Jonas chose God as the most important thing in his life.
Yeah.
And the question would be then, so what does that really mean? Is number one number one? Mm-hmm. If number one is number one, it's the most important. It is the most important. And if number one is not number one, then something else is, because there's always a number one.
There's always a number one.
So, and you know, you just have to be honest with yourself, and there's always a cost factor in following Jesus. I'm just going to throw that out there. I know it may not sound that fun to you, but if you're going to follow Jesus, if you're thinking about becoming a Christian, there's always a cost factor. There's always something that you're going to have to surrender, give up, or walk away from.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, always. You can't avoid it. And so it's one of those things that if you're considering being a Christian, you need to weigh that in. Am I really willing to follow him, even if it means walking away from something that I really want to do or want to have? Because that's really what having him as Lord means that he's the one that's deciding. Yeah. So
sacrificing other things over that. And I think that for you, maybe, who's listening, who's not a Christian and who's dating a Christian girl or guy, I don't know, like, I'm not telling you that you should break up with him or her. I'm just telling you that
not yet.
You should consider and try to help the other person to realize what do they want in life and what is most important to them. To make them realize that, is it a good idea to be dating or not? Like, it's in their hands. It's in your guys' hands.
Yeah.
It's nothing that we decide. It's nothing that we will call you up and tell you guys this is how you should live your life.
Unless you give us your phone number, because we will call you.
We will call you.
If you give us the phone number, I will personally call you. I'll say, hello, what's up with you? Come on, wake up.
So this is like a good intended warning, rebuke, advice for all of you guys out there, because it's not that we both, Ed and me, are like living in super perfect relationships and everyone is Christian around us, so we have no idea what you guys are going through. That's not the truth, because we do know, and we do know how it is to live with someone who's Christian or non-Christian, and we just want you guys to have it the best way you can, to be most prepared, because even though both people might be Christian, it still can end up really badly. Yeah,
it can still end up in divorce, even if you're married to a Christian. Yeah, like there's no magic bullet. There's no like magic wand. There's no,
magic pill
easy
you can
way.
take.
No, all relationships require hard work, but the less of these important things that you have in common, the more work and energy is required, and you just may not have that. Just that simple. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
Let's end on a high note.
Okay. On a high note. All right. Well, this is just one of probably many. We probably have to come back to this subject several times. Uh-huh. And so this just maybe think of this as like an introduction to whet your appetite. Why don't you share your story with us?
Yeah.
Why don't you share, spice it up a little bit. And then let us be able to sort of share our wisdom and share our experience. And talk directly into your life and your situation, and maybe in a way that would help you. And we're going to be upfront and honest with you. So, all right.
Hear you soon, guys. And thank you for listening to us today.
Yeah, don't forget that to write your questions and send them in to our webpage or to our email address. And I don't think we have any
subscribe.
Snapchat.
No, subscribe.
Subscribe. That's the word. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Lin Nguyen and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.